I think we have a good chance of seeing a revival of the American spirit that is unprecedented in our times.
Today, we're going to listen to two clowns convince each other that crazy is normal. I almost regret letting you hear this because it makes me so upset. But Jordan Peterson went on Piers Morgan's show, and the two of them just had a festival of agreeing about how crazy is just the new normal. And actually, you know what? It's great. Take a listen.
Everything's up in the air, obviously, Piers. This new administration, this new Trump administration, God only knows what is going to happen with Musk involved and Vivek Ramaswamy and J.D. Vance and Mehmet Oz and RFK. I mean, you're a fool if you're going to predict the outcome of that.
What do you make of it? I mean, they're calling it the Avengers. What do you make of his picks? I mean, most of them are causing surprise. I'm not massively surprised because I think Trump tried the first time to do things in a more conventional way, and he felt that just didn't work for him. He's now had 4 years out of office to really think about it, and he's come back in and he's just hit the ground with people that he thinks are going to be basically very loyal, and then they're going to be quite disruptive in the way they go about their business.
Yep.
And he thinks that kind of disruptive, blunt instrument is actually exactly what America needs right now.
So I'm going to be jumping in here a lot. I'm going to try and keep my ranting to a minimum because, you know, the more upset I get, the more I talk. But right from the beginning, Piers Morgan is talking about Donald Trump as though he is a normal politician, right? Maybe an exceptional politician, but a guy who's like, because that's what he thinks is good for America. Donald Trump, we know this, folks. Donald Trump doesn't care about anything but himself, right? He doesn't care about anything but himself. He's not a good politician. He's not even a good businessman. He's a convicted felon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you get off on the wrong foot right away being like, this seems pretty crazy. It sounds like maybe, you know, he's trying something new to make America better. He's not trying to make America better.
Well, I think what's happened fundamentally is that these remarkable people that have aggregated themselves around Trump understand very thoroughly that we're in a time of unprecedented rate of change. And I think that's pretty obvious to everyone, and that there are immense opportunities awaiting us and immense perils. And they're sufficiently concerned about the perils and sufficiently compelled by the opportunities to stake themselves politically and to take the risk of doing so. You know, people like Musk in particular, but Ramaswamy's in the same boat, essentially. These aren't people, and many of the other people around Trump, these aren't people who need the political power. Right. They already have lives. They're already have immense influence. I mean, for Musk to involve himself in the Department of Governmental Efficiency is obviously something that's taking him away from many other things that he's highly concerned about. But
give me a break. That's insane. He is perhaps Elon Musk is perhaps the single largest beneficiary of government funds and contracts, you know, maybe in the history of the planet, but certainly alive today, getting involved in the capacity that he's going to be involved in terms of managing how government money gets spent. How do you not see how that benefits him directly, right? This is an oligarchy. This is when the rich and powerful run the government, and there aren't checks and balances, and it's not the will of the voters. It's the whims of the rich making decisions. Oh, but of course they're not going to make decisions that benefit themselves. Why would they do that?
He obviously believes that the time demands that kind of response.
Oh,
and I think he's right. And, you know, more power to them. I'm strapped in for the...
More power to them is precisely what is happening.
As far as I'm concerned, I thought that what happened around Trump in the last 2 months of the election was absolutely remarkable, that these people aggregated themselves around him, and we're in for unprecedented times. And like, the Americans are remarkable people, and you're always a fool to bet against them. And I think we have a good chance of seeing a revival of the American spirit that is unprecedented in our times.
Yeah, you know, there was a moment yesterday when Trump went down to see the latest SpaceX rocket launch with Musk. And it just made me think, this is great, actually. Whatever you think of the individual
Right.
policies and everything else.
Piers Morgan, you know, the devil's in the details, pal. I mean, the individual policies matter. They're not arbitrary. This isn't some wasteful bureaucracy that has grown like a tumor and we're embroiled in this like, oh, all of this red tape. Now, don't get me wrong. The government's not perfect. But you can't just take a machete to it and burn it all down and expect that American spirit is just going to rise phoenix-like from the ashes. We need strong, clear leadership. And you can argue perhaps that it is strong leadership. You know, I mean, I think it tips towards authoritarianism, but you know, it's unchecked at this point. But you can't brush aside. You can't just be like, well, I guess we better strap in. I think it's going to be good.
There you've got the richest, most successful guy in the world who actually is a big thinker, a big dreamer. And we're going to come to one of the themes of your book, which is about adventure and how the Bible basically tells us to go and be adventurous, albeit with responsibility and everything else. So there's a real sort of theme that I see with this where both Trump and Musk are adventurers.
How is Donald Trump an adventurer? How is Elon Musk an adventurer? And listen, I've got a poetic spirit, right? So, I mean, the idea of I have a dream or we go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. I think dreaming big is absolutely part of the American, sense of itself, right? But you have to have a plan. And the one thing that's become abundantly clear in the decade we've been dealing with this malignant narcissist is that there is no plan. It's obfuscate, it's delay, it's it's muddy the water, it's persecute anyone who disagrees with you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I see dudes like this, confirming this bias about, oh, actually, it's wonderful. Actually, this is what we've been waiting for, as though that last, since 2015, when the whole thing sort of started in earnest, never happened.
You had them going down to this rocket launch, and it didn't all go exactly how they hoped and everything else. But wow, I love the ambition. I love the fact that Elon Musk is prepared to say, I met him in France earlier this year, and hearing him talk about why we need to colonize Mars, how we would colonize Mars, how we would get to Mars if we colonize it, was absolutely riveting. And you've got to have an amazing big picture brain. We've got to have an amazing brain, full stop, but you've got to have an amazing big picture brain to think the way that he does. And if he's right next to Trump in this administration, I'm all for it.
Wow. That's my situation too, and I feel the same way about RFK. I mean, he's also a preposterous person. He's bigger than life. He's full of remarkable and crazy ideas. And
crazy, emphasis on crazy.
I'm fascinated to see what he might put in place. And I would, the same thing about Ramaswamy. Ramaswamy's establishment of the Strive Fund was brilliant and daring. And we have brilliant and daring people in government, and that doesn't ever happen.
I don't think you might be able to call Trump daring. I don't think that you can call him brilliant. I don't see any evidence for that. The man who can't finish a sentence.
And God only knows. I don't even know if it's a good thing under normal circumstances, because I think under normal circumstances, you want competent administrators running your nation. But we're not in normal times, far from it. And so I'm, like I said, strapped in, waiting exactly as you pointed out, waiting for the adventure of this administration. Yeah, and everyone's sitting there thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, good.
That's not good. That's not good.
We should be thinking that, because we should be thinking out of the box, because conventional thinking hasn't got us very far. I'm always mindful of one of my favorite quotes in sport was Wayne Gretzky, a fellow Canadian, of course, the greatest ice hockey player that's ever lived. And his quote was simple: you'll miss 100% of the shots you never take. Right? I mean, simple as that.
Right.
I mean, that really is, to me, that's the difference in life between a certain type of person and another, is that certain people in life, they just take the shots and they don't mind failure. Elon Musk is going to see a lot of his rockets plummet into the ocean until he gets it right. But the thrill of the dare, of the adventure, of all of it, again, we'll come to this. He
can afford that because he is wealthier then, he's one of the top 3 wealthiest people on the planet, and those 3 people control more wealth than the entire bottom half of the human population on Earth. So he can afford to waste rockets. That doesn't make it good, right? That's not indicative of a working system.
Book, because it's one of the big themes, but I do think that I feel like it's invigorating right now. It might be slightly dangerous, and it might take us off on weird places, and it might not all work. But
It might not all
the
work.
scale of ambition is going to be invigorating.
Wow. Okay. Talk about putting a sunny picture on it. I can't take any more of it. I thought this was going to be fun, and I'm just seething with frustration. So, I want to hear what you have to say. I mean, are you a Piers Morgan fan? Are you a Jordan Peterson fan? I don't think either of these people are unintelligent men. I have watched Jordan Peterson sort of fall in love with the sound of his own voice more and more, and now the things he says are just these kind of meaningless bromides, and quoting Wayne Gretzky is like, there's some people take the shot and some people don't take the shot. So let's strap in and over the waterfall we go. I think it's going to be invigorating.